This is Mark Dempsey with the National Convergence Technology Center. Welcome to today's presentation of Robotic Process Automation, RPA, a primer. If you haven't already, please do put your name and your school in the chat box so we can have a good record of attendance. Okay? And there will be time at the end for Q&A, so if anything kind of comes up along the way, please put that in the chat box, and Christine and I are watching that, and we'll make sure that Rajiv gets those. There also will be a very short survey at the very end, a few questions, so we will share that link as well. Okay? All right, so our presenter today is Dr. Rajiv Malkan, who is a professor in the Computer and Information Technology Department of Lone Star College, Montgomery in Houston. He has over 30 years of leadership contributions in higher education within multiple settings, and has driven key initiatives in education delivery, thought leadership, grant writing, and global partnerships. Dr. Malkan's academic credentials include 2 master's degrees, a doctorate in higher education leadership, and the prestigious Kellogg Fellowship of Leadership Development. So thank you, Rajiv, for being here. We appreciate your time. I'm going to turn off my screen now so you can take over.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We got the next 30 minutes to talk about this RPA processing out there here. Most of you might know what the RPA is, but what I'm trying to do is trying to help you understand the demand is tremendous now with the AI and machine learning things popping up. All right, everybody knows who I am. So next slide, please. All right. So this is a nutshell in the agenda. We'll talk about the RPA. We'll talk about the tools available for the RPA development, why there's a huge demand now for the RPA, and what can we do as an IT curriculum, and how we can start implementing all this new stuff coming up. And obviously, we'll have the question and answers in the end. Okay, next slide. All right, so what is RPA? A lot of time it says it's a robotic process automation. Then a lot of time people, when I ask them, they say, what kind of robots we are using, what kinds of things are using. In the technical term, there's not a single robot we use. It's just basically a business process which we are automating using the software technology. To give you an example, like we may have, or like the loan processes for a mortgage or whatever, and certain processes within the applications of that process to approve all the loans, they may have about 4 or 5 different steps automated with the software to speed up the process out there. So basically, the software technology applications which we are using it, the whole purpose is to eliminate all the tedious tasks, certain forms, the HR, and things like that. All those departments are now getting automated so that all the tedious tasks are done by the software, and most of the time the human time is now spent on some other things. So the RPA software development, all governed by the business rules. There's a logic behind this. The business rules, we all have business rules, accounts payable, accounts receivable. They're all business rules for each and every application. There's a rule. So what happens is the RPA is getting demand with a low code, no code, as we talk more about it, because a lot of things are automated as we move forward. It also requires a structured input. And most of the businesses are getting automated processing. You might be seeing in your institution also a lot of this purchasing, a lot of this travel stuff. They're all getting automated because there's strict rules and regulations which can be governed, and the software can be trained to do that. Next slide. So basically, it's a bot or a robot. It's a software which is developed to capture and interpret the data. So that's the right definition of an RPA. The RPA also allows us to manipulate data. And what happens is it's a business ruling. It triggers the responses. So you may have a chat. You're talking on the chat. Most of the chats nowadays, they're all on the RPA development processes now. So when you say, I want this, I want the location for Montgomery College. And when you say that on a chat box, it triggers a response to find the location for the Montgomery campus. So then it triggers a response. And based on the next input, then the third or the fourth processes get triggered. So it's a trigger-based process because it's based on the business rules out there. And most of the chatbots then communicate with other systems, whether the systems is from the cloud, or you want to get the data from the cloud, or you want to data from other systems. They all communicate to each other very, very smoothly. Next slide. All right, so what are the benefits of the robotic process automation? First of all the mundane, the rule-based business processes are getting automated so that what they can do, the companies are saying, okay, if they can be done by the software, then I can free up the human part to do something of a value, which is more of a higher value. So if you notice that, about 10, 15 years ago, everything was offshoring, things happened. And as with this new technology has been developed and mature enough now, a lot of these business processes instead of offshoring now are getting automated. So basically, companies are saving a lot of money and they're putting more into the higher value needs for the company. They're reducing staffing cost. And you've seen in the last 2 months, 18,000 layoffs at the Amazon, 13,000, at Google and things like that. The things they can do all this stuff now because the internal processes are now all getting automated a lot. And bots are very, very easy to implement and very, very cost effective than developing a huge enterprise-wide system. So numerous applications are now being developed as what we call small, decentralized software development processes out there. Secondly, the automated system, since it's based on business rule, it eliminates a lot of human errors. So if the human is not typing a lot of things, it is reading something from one file to the next file automatically, and it's saving a lot of human errors, especially in the health industry, where even one social security number is transposed, it creates a lot of medical errors. So human errors are getting eliminated, and ultimately it's about the profit. Businesses are there for profit. I tell my students the same thing. Business formulas for profit never change. Profit is always the revenue minus cost. If the profit declines, then what happens is I have to cut the cost, or if my revenue is getting down, so I had to cut the cost. So business efficiencies are now driven by business operations. Mm-hmm. To give you an example about Rocket Mortgage and things like that, how can Rocket Mortgage do the same thing, approve the loan in less than about 15 days, but the bank may take 2 months? Okay. So what a Rocket Mortgage and things like that, if you literally see behind the scene, all the processes are totally, totally automated. All right, next slide. All right, so what is RPA technology? It's basically a drag and drop environment. Since they are business rules, all the business rules are already programmed it. And based on what business rules you want to do, you just drag it and drop it in your development software out there. So what happens is the repetitive human task. Okay? So those are transaction steps which I need to do. Now I can drag and drop into this RPA development cycle. And instead of the humans, now the software will take over that process. So that's basically what we call a bot. We are replacing the human task with the software task now. We may not be able to replace all the human processes needed, but if I can reduce 3 or 4 processes up there, then I can save a lot of time. To give you an example, American Airlines just implemented in January a new bot where they were taking 4 hours for the gate changes and other things. With the implementation of the RPA and the AI technology, they've reduced that particular gate change announcement, and which was done by human, everything. Now it's only taking them 2 minutes. So the 4 hours now reduced to 2 minutes. So now they can deploy those other gate agents to do some other things. All right, next slide. All right, so what's required to do the RPA technology? The bots are basically developed by programming. We had to write some kind of code because they are either it's a drag and drop or something, but I still have to understand the process. And there's a lot of low code, no code drag and drop in these platforms are now available in the market out there. So in the next slide, we'll see what the Gartner has developed the new Magic Quadrant, and we'll see who are the leaders in this RPA technology. Next slide. All right. All right. So what the RPA tools requires? Obviously, we require an application. We always doing by ear thing. What other things are happening is citizenship developers. There are a lot of people now with all the tools available, they don't belong to an IT. To give you an example, in my case, I am what I call a citizen developer for the data analytics. I am given access to all the data and I do my own analytics and give it to the people. The IT department or the analytics department has nothing to do with what I am doing. So I develop something and then I show it to my boss, things like that. And then we start integrating or making changes into the system. All right. So the intelligent document processing, the process task mining and discovery, these are all the tools are now done automatically, which human were doing previously. Next slide. Okay, here's Magic Quadrant for the low code, no code, and the RPA development process. UiPath, you might have heard about the UiPath. I think it was offered by the in the summer working connection or West C had offered it, I think, just recently. But if you look at that, Microsoft is coming up very, very strongly with the Power Platform and Power Apps and Power Automate, all the things out there. There's a lot of niche players, which are IBM is in what I call a niche player in certain markets, especially with their Watson and things like that in the healthcare sector. It's very popular. So there's all the tools which are drag and drop tools available to us where we can use it out there. Okay. Next slide. All right, there's a YouTube video if you want to see it, but I think let's just skip that. You'll get the slide so you can see it. It's a Deloitte it's a 2-minute video from Deloitte. It explains exactly what the robotic process automation is all about. Okay, next slide. All right, so let's look if you look behind the scene of the RPA architecture. We need a programming language, so we need either a low code or no code, some kind of platform to develop it. Now we're developing all these thousands and thousands of these bots. So we will need like a centralized hub, which bot to be get triggered at what time and what happens when the user clicks this. And then obviously we create the bot, which is the software automation tool, which is based on the rule-based system out there. And then we have what I call the pre-built APIs already built into the system. So I can integrate with the API with the legacy systems. I can integrate with my supply chain partners. I can integrate with a lot of other things. In case of what I call the American Airlines, what I call the gate bot was released earlier. They had to work with their scheduling systems, the gate systems, and also the gate agents and different modality, what they have to do. And now with the API, it becomes so much easier to just integrate all this into the bot processing. It becomes so much easier to develop the process. Okay. Next slide. All right. So what's a low code, no code, and why it's booming right then? Okay. It's according to Gartner and the Forrester, they're a $15 billion industry right now, and it's going to be quadruple in the next 5 years. There is an exponential demand for all the apps to build. If you just look at the Google Marketplace, there are 4 million apps out there. You may not be able to see everything, but a lot of corporation apps also, which are on that, the 4 million apps, and it's growing constantly. And the citizenship developers, these are the people, according to the Gartner and the Forrester definition, these are the people that are not associated with the IT department of it. They are developing their own independent processes and then showing it to the higher ups and bringing into the enterprise processing. So that is eliminating a lot and lots of tasks out there. And also what happens is since all the bots can be reused, so I don't have to test those bots have already been tested. So if I have to reuse those bots and in one of the other enterprise processes, I do not have to test all those things again and again because they've been tested and it saves a tremendous amount of time when they're creating a lot of new bots out there. Okay, next slide. All right, so there you go. This are true numbers out there, and app development time from only 10% of what a Java or a React, JavaScripting programming would require to be done. Hand coding reduces to only about 8 to 10%. The rest is all done by the automatic software. The RPA software tools and the platforms, which are already programmed with the business rules and other things, where the developer just had to drag and drop different things out there. So the whole coding requirement is about 10% out of the whole 100% out there. And average cost to develop a bot is almost 70% less than a traditional application development. And that's one reason why there's a tremendous boom for the RPA development platforms and other things. Okay. Next slide. All right. The other thing is reusable package components. I mean, we how many of you are using Python for data analytics? If we look at a Python thing, what are we using? We're not teaching them any Python languages. We're teaching them all the different libraries out there, how to take your data into data analytics and move out there. So that we're just using all the repackaged components of the existing platforms, and that reduces tremendous development time. And the maturity, the maturity of the RPA tools are so good nowadays. So the issue previously was the governance of the data and the security. Now they're all built into a lot of leading vendors. If you see in the Gartner group, they're leading because of the security and the governance already built into the products. And obviously organizations are encouraging a lot more software adoption quickly with the development of scale at the business and industry level. They want to move everything into this automated system as quickly as possible. And you're seeing the pandemic has created a little bit of urgency to digitize or digital transformation for most of the organizations. Next slide. All right, Gartner forecast spending in hyper automation. The way the hyper automation is defined is take the low code, no code development process, you combine with the cognitive technologies like the AI and machine learning, and we combine both of these together, you'll be able to see a tremendous market out there. And they're predicting it's already a $720 billion industry right now. All right. And now, obviously, in the last week, you've seen the generative AI, things like that in the market with the chat GPT out for the public review out there. And so this OpenAI, it was a nonprofit organization, but they have a for-profit branch where they are selling all the knowledge base they've gained to the business and industry now. Okay, if anybody has not used the OpenAI Codex, which now Microsoft has already put a lot of those stuff into your Visual Studios and other things, and if you use GitHub, the Copilot will allow you to write half of the code, depending on what you want to start and writing over there. So generative AI is booming like crazy, and obviously it has gone a lot of traction in the last couple of months after the release of the chat GPT. We'll talk a little bit about that next slide. So what generative AI is also doing, so you combine the low code, no code with the these generative AI algorithms. And what's happening is we are recreating new content, okay? So we're creating content, it can be audio, code, images, simulations, it's videos, and so on. So all of a sudden, people eyes are opened up, and the business and corporations have already been using this. I'll show you some of the stuff which the generative AI was already doing in a lot of businesses ahead of time. Okay, so the Chat GPT basically it's a pre-trained system out there, and basically, if anybody had not used Chat GPT, download it and play around with it. And it has been a big discussion in higher ed right now because it can write an A quality an essay for you based on a topic you want. And the English faculty and everybody is trying to figure out how can we stop this cheating, and we're not be able to stop all this stuff anyway. Okay, DALL-E is the same thing. It would create different kinds of arts. Okay, depending on it. If anybody plays chess, we have a chess club here in Montgomery campus. And yesterday we just met and we showed the student this mittens, which is a cat, which plays you. And it's so successful. The new version was out on January 1st. And this mittens is beating most of the grandmasters at this point. And it's all driven by the low code, no code, easy to develop chatbots out there. All right, next chat. All right, this is all the previous one. Some of you might have used the GPT-3 or the Sketch to Code, which is now on. A lot of the startups are now purchased either by Meta or the Microsoft or Google. Okay, Kite was a great tool out there. Remember, all this it's a developing thing out there. It helps you refine your code a little bit better. It helps you understand how to write a code a little bit better. Kite just folded up. That was a startup for 7 years, and they just folded up last year because of the funding and a lot of other things were popping up in the market, which they cannot compete at all. Because it requires a lot of tremendous power. You know, this GPT-3 was developed using 45 terabytes of data, okay, of just text data. And the amount of computing power it requires. And that's why most of the stuff will require a cloud computing resources to do all the processing speed behind the scene, what's needed out there. Next slide. All right, so what's demand out there, right? So let's see, I just did the Power Automator jobs right there, okay? This was as of last night, 3,300 jobs right there in LinkedIn, okay? Power Platform, Power Automate, Power Apps. If you putting different things like that, you will see where the jobs are getting created and where the jobs are. Previously, there was nothing out there. Now you're seeing the trends that we are requirements on with 100,000 jobs out there. Okay. All right, next slide. Okay, I just put UiPath and right there, there's 1,700 jobs out there for that particular software out there. So if you search, if you just put a robotic process automation, you may not get that kind of thing. But if you start looking at the skill sets which are required to do the development process, you will start finding specific jobs in the market over there. Next slide. Okay, I put Robotic right there. It's 1,000 plus shows up, but there were 3,000 just for the Power Platform. So depending on how you do all these searches, you may get different results out there. So if you really want to try what all these jobs do, so I would say just go and read one or two of those bot developer, what they do, and you will try to understand how we have to start changing our curriculum to fit those needs out there. Next slide. Okay, Microsoft Power Apps right there, 4,000. There were 508 new jobs last week. So there's so many tools out there which are now all of a sudden we have a lot of demand to train those people. And you know, it came to light to me because I was talking to the Schlumberger and they have developed 300 apps. This is an oil and gas company. They have developed their own 300 different apps, and some of them, he said, he was chief, what they call digital transformation officer here in Houston. And that triggered my mind. When I was talking to ExxonMobil people, they are hiring 150 more people on just the RPA with the Power Apps what they call the experience out there. Okay, next slide. All right, so how do we start implementing this thing? What I'm doing is we have an honors college year, so I work with the honors director, and if anybody wants a project in IT, then I try to bring them into things. In fact, yesterday just had a meeting with one student, and she's going to explore one of the local no-code software development process. In programming 2 class, I do give at least one project on local no-code. I tell them to download any of the out systems or UiPath or any of them and create and tell me how they're doing it. And we are developing our own AI curriculum in AAS. So hopefully we will be adding a course on the RPA into the AI curriculum. Next slide. Almost done. Okay. So what we talked about is RPA really quickly in the primer. We talked about the RPA architecture, what's required out there. You know, we need a programming language and platform to do it. We need what we call the centralized command system to deploy all these robots out there. And then there are different tools out there. As I said, there's so many tools out there, depending on what you want to do. As I say, Out System is a nice one. UiPath is good. And obviously Microsoft and Google's have their own systems out there. Okay, there's a demand. There's lots and lots of demand. We're not going into a lot of things about why the demand is still there. Out there, the reskilling demand is there for most of the organizations. And there are plenty of jobs, as you've seen in LinkedIn and Indeed and other places. So jobs are popping up with this kind of skill sets.